Hello and welcome. This is Nancy Cooper, and I'm your host of the To Light Show podcast. So today we're going to talk about radical accountability. This is really, truly one of the most profound gifts that we can give to ourselves, really, and to other people. I mean, it's like the most transformative, profound, powerful, everything. It changes, it shifts, it expands, it creates this almost like a vacuum portal for us to be able to step into and allow everything. It's like the most expansive thing that we can do for ourselves. Okay, so what exactly is radical accountability? Radical accountability is the ability to own it. Something that I teach a lot with my one-on-one clients is when we blame other people or other circumstances for our reality and what we're creating in our life, this is a very disempowering thing to do. We are actually giving away our power when we surrender into things like blame and trying to change where the responsibility is held. Now, I understand, I can already feel the response, right? Well, it's not my fault about my parents, or it wasn't my fault about X, Y, and Z, what happened to me as a child. You are correct. When we have incarnated into a reality, this is something that we need to understand too. We choose all of it. We choose who our parents are going to be. We choose our birth date. That's why we have our star chart, our natal chart. We choose our race, our gender, all of it. We decide on that. So let's take a step and look at this from that perspective first before going into the more 3D aspect of this. So let's take a journey kind of back in time to pre-soul planning, when we're in the perfect aligned state of the divine, of spirit. That our soul is back into the pool and it is being in that perfection state, okay? When we are in that state of being, we understand that it is our soul's program to expand. We are a part of the universe. We are a part of this divine creation. Every single one of us is an extension of the divine. And our sole purpose here on this planet, in this experience, in this 3D world, is expansion. When we expand, when we grow, when we heal our old past life woundings, our current life woundings, when we heal collective woundings, when we grow and expand into a new version of ourselves, we are fulfilling our soul's blueprint of expansion. This is why people who create so much and who put that effort into themselves of becoming better and growing in whatever ways that they feel called to do, this is why they feel that level of soul satisfaction that so many don't understand how to access. It comes from fulfilling this blueprint. It comes from standing in agreement with that and saying, okay, I'm just supposed to expand. I'm supposed to grow. Well, how do I do this? Through education, through art, through activities, through going through deep healing, shadow work. You know, there's all different ways that we can expand and grow, but it's always going to be about the betterment of ourselves. So if we have come into a space where we're no longer feeling aligned with the idea of growth, then we're going into a deep kind of breakaway point from our soul's mission, and we're going to feel that discontent in our body. A lot of times it's going to feel like depression or anxiety. And if it's left to fester, it will definitely grow and become more difficult to manage. Absolutely. Okay. So we come from this perfect aligned state. We come from this position of seeing everything for how it is, understanding that nothing is good or bad, right or wrong. It's all experiences. It's all feedback. And then we incarnate, right? We come here and we kind of forget it all until we awaken and we start remembering bits and pieces. So we come into this reality, and as children, we don't have any memory of our plan. And we are in this situation now to experience things that are meant to activate us in some way. So maybe in the pre-planning session, we had this decision of, okay, I never had a chance to heal this past life trauma, my persecution of being a witch. This is something I teach about a lot, so it's an example I use a lot. So I need to heal my witch's wound this lifetime. So what is going to happen to me in my childhood is I'm going to pick a set of parents who are going to make me fear my gifts and abilities. I'm going to come in, I'm going to have some. I'm going to be connected with this at some level. I'm going to see things, hear things, connect in this. And I'm going to have parents that don't support this. Maybe they are religious. Maybe they are, just ignorant. Who knows? But whatever we're choosing, it's going to be something that is very close to what we experienced in that past lifetime that caused the trauma, because it has to be what I refer to as an activating event. So we have this activating event in this current lifetime, okay? And then we feel that our wounding has kind of come from that. We're like, okay, well, this happened, this trauma or this suppression of my gifts or this, et cetera, this is designed to create a scenario to reawaken this wounding for us to focus on healing it this lifetime. So when we get older and we start having our spiritual awakening for those who are, if someone is listening to this that doesn't feel like they're going through a spiritual awakening, all of this is probably going to sound incredibly offensive. It won't make any sense. It's going to seem super mean. It's going to be, they're going to feel like victim shamed or blamed, and that's just not the energy of this at all. And if you're feeling that, I'm going to just go ahead and say right now, you're not here. Like, this is not for you. And that's okay. I would honestly just stop listening. Like, you don't need to go any further. For those who are in the space of, okay, yes, I'm feeling truth in my body. I'm feeling a connection to this information. I can see where she's going with this. This is making sense now that I have started awakening, now that I have started seeing things in a different light, in a different perspective, in a different energy. When I look back, I can start to see how these things played out that have actually called me into my purpose, how they have called me into my healing, right? So if we just came into this lifetime and everything was perfect, we would never be called into healing work, right? What would be the point? If I had, sunshine and rainbows and rode unicorns all day long as a child, in my adult life, I would be Buddy the Elf, right? We're good to go. It's fine. But, he's not going to be seeking like, oh, I need to heal from childhood trauma. I need to heal this wounding, because there wouldn't be one, right? It would have been this different experience. Now, the caveat to that is if we had decided to come in with some past life memories. You could have a perfectly innocent childhood, but still be haunted by past life memories all through it. I'm someone who experienced this. My childhood was not severely traumatic. It could have been better, but it was not a severely traumatic childhood. But I, through my entire childhood, had past life memories that inspired the book series that I have. The first book is called Witch's Wound. So that, it's going to depend, like, how do we choose to come into this lifetime with this information? It's all going to be for our benefit, for our highest good, for what is going to create the most expansive situation, the most expansive experience for us. So when we start understanding this and when we start taking those steps to say, okay, so at some level, I am the deliberate creator of my entire experience, and I will address the fact that I have experienced trauma. I have experienced domestic violence that almost resulted in the loss of my life. I have experienced sexual trauma multiple times. So I don't at all want to downplay and say, oh, this, you asked for that or this happened. Again, that is not the energy or space that we're in. When we get to a certain level and we start to understand and look back, it all starts kind of making sense. And this is a very, very powerful moment that we can come to on our journey when we start to understand the purpose and the pain, and it starts to connect. We feel very much empowered and recognize, okay, I see where I am now in my journey, and I understand now why this is something that would have needed to play out in order for me to get here. Like I can see this, I can piece it together. It's not saying, yay, great, that happened. Not at all. We're never going to downplay that energy. We're never going to act like it was not what it was. But that's not what this podcast is about, okay? We're talking about radical responsibility and really claiming our power and reclaiming our power. So when we understand all of this and we understand that we are really truly the creator of our reality, and things have been set up for us into this physical experience in this 3D world for our expansion, for our highest growth, for our highest everything, for the highest period, right? Then we can start kind of coming into the space of saying, okay, so when I start shifting blame, when I start trying to say, oh, that wasn't my fault, it was because, my parents didn't do enough, or it was because my partner didn't do enough, or it's because my children aren't doing whatever I want or expect or think or whatever, or, the other driver didn't do this, or this is very disempowering to us, because at some level, every experience that we have stood in agreement to co-create with others. So if we're finding ourselves in a situation that is not the dream scenario that we have been hoping for or that we would wish to experience, and it's something that is maybe a little bit more filled with opportunity of expansion, we'll say that. When we find ourselves in those situations, this is where the invitation to come in to ourselves and say, okay, what part of me aligned with this, and agreed to stand in agreement with it and integrity with it to co-create this scenario? What part of me is aligning with that? I'm telling you, when you can get to this level of your spiritual journey, this is like everything. It is the ultimate game changer to return back to your own fullest power. When you step into that space and when you step into that energy of fully owning your power, everything starts to change. Everything starts to happen for you. It is phenomenal. It is magical. It is incredible, but it's not the easiest to get there. So we're sitting in this space and having to address this and say, okay, there was still a level of me that agreed to co-create this with this individual. I'll use an example. Maybe, we've been working on healing our woundings when it comes to the masculine, and we're deciding, okay, I'm going to start dating again. I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going to start dating. And we meet someone and they seem really nice. And we end up finding ourselves in a position where we sleep with them too early for our comfort level. Like, we're not quite ready for that, but our body is responsive and, things are happening. And then it's like, oh, I really wish that hadn't happened, because now I'm emotionally different and I wasn't prepared for that, right? And so then things maybe they work out, but in this example we're saying, and then things kind of fall apart from there. And then it's so easy for us to go in and be like, what a creep, right? What an asshole for like using me for sex and then just discarding me and throwing me away in this way, right? It's so easy to go into that energy instead of us going inward and saying, okay, what part of me was seeking validation through sex? And so therefore I aligned with this to do this sooner than I was ready for, right? So this is that opportunity to go in and understand, okay, maybe it's my own wounded masculine energy, right? My own wounded masculine energy was aligning with another wounded masculine instead of me standing in a healed divine masculine energy to say, no, I'm sacred. I'm not going to put myself in this scenario with you. I'm not playing this out with you. I'm not going to do that. So there's so many opportunities for us to be able to go in and ask. And I really, really, really want to make sure that I'm being clear that this example that I'm using is not a non-consensual. It's a thing where both people were consensual, but we probably weren't ready to take the relationship to that level. And we're kind of like, I probably should have waited on that. And then things fall apart. And then we're like, oh, he's such an asshole. I can't believe, it's like that kind of example. This, I'm not referring to a non-consensual anything of that nature. That I want to be very, very clear. Okay, so moving forward from that, but hopefully the point is getting across where it's an invitation for us to go in and say, okay, what part of me aligned with this? Because that's the part that we want to start clearing and healing, right? So if I have a wounded masculine part of me who is calling in other wounded masculines and only attracting wounded masculines, then clearly that's something I would want to know. I would want to know that, and I would want to heal and clear it so that I can stop unconsciously doing that and attracting and calling in wounded masculines and start to become a vibrational match and magnetic to healed divine masculine energy by becoming a healed divine masculine myself in my own masculine energy, right? So we have feminine and masculine. We have both. We could have more healed feminine energy, but our masculine could still be very wounded. So it's important for us to be open, right? Because that's the whole point of this. It's saying be open to the feedback because that's what it's there for. It's not there to hurt you. It's not there to punish you in any way. It's there for feedback, and that's it. We have to release this, oh, this is bad, this is good. No, it's feedback. It's showing you, okay, this is where you are right now. And if that's not where we want to be, then it's the opportunity to say, ooh, okay, so what part of me called that in? It's like, what part of me is not wanting to be a millionaire yet? What part of me is not wanting to have, X, Y, and Z? Maybe the partner, maybe the money, maybe the health, maybe whatever. What part of me is still in resistance to this? This is the invitation to go in and lean in and say, okay, I see the feedback. I see this coming to me. I see this showing up. So what part of me is aligned with this? And I promise you it's unconscious. Again, this is where we have compassion. This is not at all a blame thing. This is not a thing of shame on you, you're doing this. This is an unconscious program that has been planted in you that you probably brought in from past life or that was implanted into childhood. And it's shadow work. There's a shadow aspect of you that is realigning you with this scenario, the situation, this karmic cycle, because it wants to, in its way, keep you safe by showing you, oh, all men are a piece of shit, right? Look, I just showed you again. All men are a piece of crap. Look, see, told you, I showed you again. But instead, we have to go in and change that program to say, you know, some men, sure, some women, some everybody, but there are healed men out there, and I am aligned with those. That's my new program, so that I start finding those healed, aligned men, and that's who I start co-creating with. So there's such a powerful thing about holding ourselves accountable and going into that radical accountability and saying, okay, there's a part of me that aligned with this. I love her. I have compassion for her. There's no condemnation. There's no shame. None of that energy is here with me. I love myself fully. I accept myself fully. But I recognize that there was a part of me that was a vibrational match. I understand that that was subconscious. It was unconscious. It was not a deliberate thing that I did on purpose. And so therefore, I'm not going to blame, but I'm going to hold myself accountable for what was created into my reality and understand that I have the power to change it. I have the power to shift this dynamic and say, I don't want to create this anymore. Now that I'm conscious enough to recognize this, I want to change the narrative. I want to change the program so that's not my experience. This is where you get all of your power back. It all comes back when we start taking that full radical accountability. I hope that this message resonated with you. I hope that it was translated and heard and received from the right energy of knowing that it was love. There's no negative anything in this message, and it is really purely designed for your expansion and growth and to help you start achieving your dreams, desires, and the reality that you want to experience. Thank you so much for listening. And as always, I want you to remember you have the power and you are the medicine. Namaste.